The last time I spoke to my cousin, he sent me a video of us as kids and wrote, "I wish we could go back just for a day." I didn't respond until a week later, but by then his phone had been disconnected and his mother was answering with grief in her voice. This is something I haven't told many people. Not because I'm ashamed of it, but because I still don't know how to live with it. I'll never forget the message my cousin sent me. It was a random Tuesday morning. I was already running late to work, half listening to a podcast, drinking lukewarm coffee that had been sitting in my car since 6:45 a.m. My phone buzzed. I glanced at it during a red light. It was a text from my cousin, Matt. He'd sent a video and one sentence, "I wish we could go back just for a day." The video was one of those old camcorder recordings. It showed us in our grandparents' backyard in Waco, Texas. We must have been around 8. Matt was wearing his red Power Rangers shirt that he practically lived in for 2 summers. I had on a white t-shirt that already had ketchup stains near the collar. We were jumping off the stone patio ledge, pretending we were stuntmen. I was holding a stick like a sword. He was making explosion noises. My grandpa's voice yelled off camera, telling us to stop before we broke something. We laughed and jumped again. Watching it hit me harder than I expected. But I was in a rush. My boss had already called once that morning. I told myself I'd respond to Matt later. I even started typing something, "Man, that takes me back." But then deleted it because I thought I could say more if I waited. And I forgot. Days passed. Work got busy. Life went on. It was almost a week later, on a quiet Sunday evening, that I remembered his message. I opened our chat, watched the video again, and finally replied, "Hey man, I'd love that too. Let's catch up soon." When I hit send, it didn't go through. Green bubble. I frowned and tried calling. "Your call cannot be completed as dialed." I assumed he'd changed numbers or something. Maybe he lost his phone. No big deal. The next day I tried again. This time someone picked up. I recognized the voice right away. It was his mom. "Hi, is Matt there?" I asked. There was a long pause on the line. Too long. Then she said, quietly, "Who is this?" "It's Josh," I said. "His cousin." She let out this soft, cracking breath, like a balloon deflating slowly. "Oh, Josh, honey." That's when my stomach dropped. She said, "We lost him. Matt's gone." I didn't say anything. I just stood there in my kitchen, holding the phone so tight I thought I'd crush it. My ears were ringing, and everything she said after that first sentence came out muffled, like I was underwater. "We lost him, Josh, a week ago. She paused again. "He took his own life." That sentence knocked the breath out of me. I had to sit down. My aunt tried to keep talking, but I barely heard her. My head was spinning. I kept thinking about the message. The video. That one line. "I wish we could go back just for a day." It wasn't just a random memory. It was a goodbye. And I didn't see it. I didn't even reply. That night, I sat on my couch with my phone in my lap, rewatching the video over and over. I memorized every second of it. I knew the exact moment Matt laughed too hard and stumbled, the way his little hands brushed off dirt from his knees, the way he looked up at the camera and shouted, "We're gonna be famous one day." We were supposed to grow old together. We used to talk about moving to Austin and starting a business, some dumb comic book shop or a food truck. We talked about road trips and getting old and raising our kids like siblings. Then life got in the way. I moved out of Waco. Got caught up in my own mess. I hadn't seen him in over a year. The last time we really talked, was around Christmas. He told me things weren't great. Said he was having a rough time at work, that he felt stuck. He'd broken up with his girlfriend, lost his job, and had to move back in with his mom. I told him things would turn around. That he was smart and funny and people loved him. I believed it. I thought it was just a rough patch. But maybe I should have heard more in his voice. After his funeral, I stayed at my aunt's place for a while. She looked like a ghost, barely sleeping, barely eating. She let me into Matt's room, told me to take anything I wanted. Said it helped her knowing someone close to him could hold on to something. His room hadn't been touched. Clothes on the floor. An empty energy drink can on the desk. His phone charger still plugged in. I sat on his bed and just stared at the walls. He'd drawn a bunch of comic-style characters on notebook paper and pinned them up. Heroes he made up as a kid and kept drawing even as an adult. There was a notebook on the nightstand. I opened it and found a bunch of short entries. Not full pages, just small pieces of thoughts. Most of them were dark, sad, tired. One entry was dated the same day he sent me the video. It said, "I don't think anyone will notice, but maybe someone will care enough to wonder." That broke me. I wondered if that message was his way of reaching out to see if I'd respond. If I had just said something sooner. If I had told him I missed him too. Would it have changed anything? I stayed in Waco for 2 weeks after the funeral. I couldn't bring myself to go back to Dallas. Everything there felt fake, like I was playing some part in a life I didn't want anymore. At my aunt's house I could still feel Matt. In the quiet, in the drawers, in the half-finished cereal box he'd left on top of the fridge. One afternoon I went through the rest of his things. I told myself I was helping, but really I was searching for answers. I couldn't get over the idea that I'd missed something. That maybe the video wasn't the first sign. That's when I found the old phone. It was stuffed in a shoebox in his closet with a bunch of other random stuff, old receipts, a cracked watch, a dried-up Sharpie. I recognized the phone case, though. It was the same one he used back when we lived together for a few months after college. I charged it. When it finally turned on, there were barely any apps left. Just texts, photos, and one email account. I scrolled through the texts first. Most were old conversations with friends, a few flings, lots of silence. Then I saw a thread labeled "Do Not Open." It was a saved draft of a text. No recipient. Just a message he'd never sent. It read, "If you're reading this, then I guess you care more now than you did when I was alive. I don't blame you. I really don't. I just wanted someone to say they heard me. That I wasn't talking into a wall." My chest tightened. I sat there on his floor for a long time, phone in my hand, staring at that message. I didn't know if it was meant for me, or for someone else, but it felt like a slap in the face. Later that night, I showed the draft to his mom. She looked at it, didn't say a word, then got up and walked out of the room. She didn't come back. The next morning, she handed me a small cardboard box. "I didn't read it," she said, "but he wanted you to have this. Said if anything ever happened, this was for you." Inside the box was a flash drive, 2 notebooks, and a folded letter with my name on it. The letter was short. "Josh, I don't know what you're doing with your life right now. Maybe you're successful. Maybe you're just surviving. But you've always been good at starting over. If you're reading this, then I failed. But maybe you don't have to. Open the drive. Read the notes. Do something with it. For both of us." My hands were shaking. I plugged in the flash drive right then and there. It was full of story drafts, character sketches, plot outlines, pages and pages of stuff Matt had written for a comic series we talked about making together when we were younger. Heroes, villains, backstories. He'd even recorded voice notes, talking through the dialogue like he was prepping a pitch. I couldn't believe it. He never told me he kept working on it. He told me years ago he'd given up on writing. Then something hit me. A name I kept seeing in the files. David. Matt had written dozens of entries about a guy named David, part of a comic, sure, but something felt personal. Too raw. I didn't remember that character from our old stories. So I searched Matt's phone again. Looked through the messages. And there he was. David R. Last text exchange was from 3 months ago. And the last message sent by David read, "I told you to stop texting me. You're a grown man. Get help." No response from Matt. That name stuck in my head. I didn't know who David was, but something about him felt important. The way Matt had written him into all those stories, always as the one who betrayed the hero, the one who caused the fall. I started digging. And what I found made my stomach turn. I found out who David was. His full name was David Runnels. He was Matt's old boss. I didn't recognize the name at first, but when I searched it online along with the name of the small IT company Matt used to work for, I found a few connections. David was the lead manager at a startup where Matt had been working as a junior tech support analyst. The job Matt had lost just before everything started going downhill. At first, I thought maybe David had just been a jerk of a boss. Maybe he'd fired Matt unfairly and Matt was still holding on to that anger. But the more I looked, the more twisted it got. I called an old college friend of Matt's who'd worked at that same company for a short time. We hadn't talked in years, but I didn't care. I needed answers. When I asked him about David, he went silent for a few seconds, then said, "You don't know." "No what?" I asked. He sighed. "Look, man. There were rumors that David was crossing lines with some of the younger guys there, making weird comments, inviting them to hang out off the clock. He never said anything outright, but it was this weird power thing. Like, if you didn't go along with it, he'd make work hell. I asked him if Matt ever told him anything about that. He hesitated, then said Matt never said it directly, but he hinted. One time, he came back from a one-on-one meeting with David and he looked messed up. Not physically, but just shaken. I asked what happened and he said I shouldn't have gone. That guy's not right. That's all he said. And after that, things went bad fast. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The pieces were snapping together, but they painted a picture I didn't want to see. Matt didn't just lose his job. He got pushed out by a man who used his position to mess with people. And Matt never told me. Never told anyone. I went back to the notebooks Matt left me. I reread all the entries that mentioned David. Suddenly, it all made sense. The betrayal, the manipulation, the way the hero was always broken by someone he once trusted. This wasn't just fiction. It was real. Matt had buried it inside the stories. It was his way of screaming without saying the words. And we all missed it. Then something even worse happened. A week later, I got a message on social media. From a burner account. No picture. No name. It just said, "You should stop digging. Some things are better left alone." He made his choices. I froze. How would anyone know I was looking into David? I hadn't posted anything. Hadn't talked about it publicly. Someone was watching. And they were warning me. But it was too late for that. I wasn't going to stop. Because someone needed to answer for what happened to Matt. That message lit a fire in me. You should stop digging. No. Hell no. I couldn't save Matt, but I wasn't going to let him die in silence. I wasn't going to pretend like this didn't happen just because someone in a better suit and a cleaner house wanted me to walk away. I started reaching out to others who used to work with Matt. I didn't care if they thought I was being obsessive or weird. I just kept asking questions. I posted in job forums, sent private messages, even called people cold. Most ignored me, but a few responded. The picture got clearer. David Runnels had a pattern. He picked guys who were younger, usually in their first or second job out of college. He'd act friendly, then slowly push boundaries. Private meetings, comments about their looks, texts at night. It wasn't illegal on paper, but it was sick. And the ones who didn't play along, he made their lives hell, started writing them up, cutting their hours, talking behind their backs to higher-ups, making them quit. Matt was one of those. One former employee told me something that made my blood run cold. He said, "Yeah, we all knew something was up with Matt. After David pushed him out, Matt sent a report to HR. A long one, detailed everything." I was stunned. And the guy side, HR never did anything. They investigated. But David stayed. 2 months later, Matt was gone. Not just from the job. From everything. That was it. I wanted justice. No revenge. So I made a plan. I took everything. All the messages. The notes. The comic storylines Matt had written, which were now so clearly based on what happened. I even found an old voicemail Matt had left me months before he died, where his voice cracked and he said, "Some people just get to win, even when they're wrong." I put it all together in one file. Then I sent it to every single board member at that company, to their investors, to a local news reporter, to a lawyer who specializes in toxic workplaces. I included names, dates, screenshots, even Matt's stories because I wanted them to see how far he'd gone just to try and speak. Within a week, the company put David on leave. By the second week, it wasn't leave anymore. It was terminated. But I wasn't done. I showed up at one of his favorite lunch spots in Waco, where he used to wine and dine clients. I didn't go inside. I just waited outside until he came out. He looked older than I remembered from the photos. Wore a pressed shirt and smiled like a man who still thought he had a clean reputation. He saw me. That smile vanished. "You're Josh, right?" he said. I didn't answer right away. Then I looked him dead in the eye and said, "He sent me a video, a week before he died. You were in it. Not your face, but your poison." He opened his mouth like he was going to argue. I cut him off. "You hurt him. You ruined him. And you walked away like it was nothing." He looked around, like he wanted someone to help him. No one did. "I didn't do anything illegal," he muttered, quieter. "You did worse," I said. "You broke someone decent. Someone who trusted you." He turned and walked away. I didn't follow. But I knew he'd remember my face. And Matt's name. Every day for the rest of his life. He lost his job. His reputation. People around town started whispering. His name was in a blog post that went viral. He tried to fight back, but it stuck. I don't feel better. Not really. Matt is still gone. And I'll always carry the weight of not texting back. Of not calling. Of not seeing the signs. But I told his story. And the man who helped bury him in silence? Now everyone knows. That's the least I could do.